Good day, everyone! It's Londononion returning with a culminating comparative discussion on the Deceiving Deadeye. Our build is led by the Alchemist and accompanied by the Invader. Our agenda for this discussion will be simple. We will go through a brief exposition of the build reconfigurations, go through a comparative review, and this onion will finish off with his preferences based on the build's efficacy. For those that are tuning in late, this onion would recommend viewing the first two installments for a full understanding of today's discussion. And for those that don't care or are caught up, let's begin. As we had touched on at the end of our previous video, most of the build constituents will remain the same, but one of the primary changes this onion considered was the relic. Instead of the runed heart, the shielded heart is equipped for a 100% shield for 20 seconds. This will cause a notable drop in mod power production, particularly when using the reboot skill on the Invader. Additionally, this onion trades Leaking Gemstone for Archer's Crest, which will boost projectile speed for the Bolt Driver and charge time on both weapons. Speaking of the Bolt Driver, this onion had decided to equip Sequenced Shot in place of the Refunder Mutator. This will, again, decrease the charge time and increase critical chance after each charged shot. Lastly, to make up for the decrease in mod power generation, this onion traded out the Chakra trait for the Insight trait. This will be a relatively smaller return, but will take place constantly. Now, this boost in charge time is extremely important, because the monorail will have a thinner margin for error, but will also get more shots off at a faster rate. Now, the comparisons here are rather simple and straightforward. Our altered build is essentially faster in every way. Just like we performed in the first installment, in a race to 20,000 damage units, the monorail maintained a higher DPS in the high 600s to low 700s, while the Bolt Driver was between the high 500s and low 600s. Even though the monorail is more efficient compared to the primary build, this onion has had a few occurrences of misjudging the extent of a given charge and self-destructing into oblivion. With this in mind, the double-edged sword, that is the monorail, has become even sharper, but this would also incentivize more use of the Bolt Driver, particularly in higher pressure circumstances. Looking at the offensive capability category in our evaluation of function, applicability/practicality is now more balanced between our primary and secondary weapons. Due to Archer's Crest, the Bolt Driver's projectiles are far more reliable, even at a far range. Plus, additional shots will increase critical chance due to Sequenced Shot. Looking briefly at the defensive category, the evaluation remains the same, but the efficiency that the Bolt Driver can generate shields is noteworthy compared to the previous configuration. From a synergy perspective, there is some loss regarding ammunition longevity. The Refunder Mutator mixed with Transference essentially meant that one would barely have to rely on ammo pickups. With our new configuration, ammo restoration falls purely on the Spectral Blade and ammo drops. Additionally, the Runed Heart specifically increased health regeneration, and if one is still on the offensive, specifically with the ranged weapons, this will equate to a faster increase in health with both Generating Band and the Runed Heart. With the new configuration, one is only limited to the 3% health regeneration that comes with shield activation and the Root Water Concoction, essentially trading health regeneration for increased defenses. However, where there is a loss in synergy in one area, there was still gains in another. Even though we lose the mod bonus with the Runed Heart, the speed that both of our weapons can now operate will build back our mod power much faster. Also, if one actually can get used to the new speed of the monorail, then Recoil Dampener becomes less of a reliance and more of a bonus in safe damage output. Song of Aether, though, will suffer a bit more, as it is a higher cost mod. Regarding the bosses we spoke of, the Corruptor is now more open to a traditional means of taking it on, or perhaps even a mixture. One may still only target the Corruptor, or the Guardian as well. Regardless, this reconfigured build is well equipped for the battle. The increase in efficiency leaves more room for creativity. If one wishes to target the Guardian, then taking on the incoming Root Moths is a lot easier with the Bolt Driver. As a burst weapon, there is still a slight disadvantage, but dodging after exhausting one's magazine is still an option too. Most of them, however, can be shot out of the sky with greater ease. Additionally, the Corruptor itself will have its weak spot exposed for a far longer period of time. With this being said though, if one's accuracy is not up to par, then ammo could be an issue. One's best option throughout the fight is to find moments where the Spectral Blade could prove useful. This can chiefly be done against the Guardian swords following their strike, or when the Guardian lands from a jump. Whirlwind strikes at these times should help dampen the degree of ammo expenditure. Looking at the Nightweaver, during her first phase, there was a fair amount of emphasis on charging and shooting as she initiates and issues her ranged attack. Timing was important for being able to dodge while getting a shot off. With the monorail's decreased charge time, the strategy will still remain roughly the same, but the timing is more relaxed, and one can achieve more consistent fully charged shots against her. Also, with the increased bolt driver speed, spacing from her minions is a little less important, since one can put a halt on their advance much faster. Not much can be said differently about her second phase though. Whether she is in her ethereal or regular form, the close range skirmish is best dealt with using one's secondary and melee weapon. Greater emphasis though should be placed on melee, since the bolt driver will likely burn through its ammo very quickly. Unfortunately, Venom and Magister Delane still maintain their designation as weaknesses for this build. At most, the Shielded Heart can aid with defenses against Venom, but with high enough devastation, which he has, one's shields can easily be depleted. This is where the Ruined Heart can still have an advantage over the Shielded Heart. Regardless of damage received, one will regenerate their health as promised by the relic. Prioritizing the bolt driver for regular use, and using the monorail with adequate space is still recommended by this onion. Ammo, however, may become an issue without the Refunder Mutator. As far as Magister Delane is concerned, this one still remains a weakness only because the insta-get potential cannot be nullified with anything in our build constituents. Having a more efficient use of the monorail may aid with the timing or potentially allow one a little bit more time to dodge correctly from his insta-get attack. The only changes that this onion can prescribe is to exercise a little bit more patience after the Magister's health has reached about half to 2/3 depleted. It is at this point he begins to get a lot faster with his insta-give attack, and one may have to play a more opportunistic game. With a hazard like this, one's best bet is to maintain as much distance as possible. This onion had more favor relying on the reboot skill with relic use. That way, one could maintain a lot more distance and give Magister Delane more room to make up when attempting to stick you with his tongue. Overall though, this onion is willing to admit that the hardships faced in this battle may be more of a skill issue than a build issue. In which case, if one is confident with their use of the monorail as well as Magister Delane's movements, then feel free to ignore this onion's prescriptions. This onion ultimately values both configurations. The original build worked with more synergy, while the reconfigured build boosted offensive capability and bolstered defenses. This onion appreciates the offensive efficiency of the new build, but misses having the mod power and health regeneration from the Ruined Heart. Additionally, Chakra in the first configuration was an awesome perk when using either mod, but more so recoil dampener. However, the boosted charge time on both weapons is difficult to give up, and getting used to the charge speed takes time, but can eventually become second nature if one can master when to release the charge. The Insight perk is also not bad, and it helps to have one less meter or timer to manage. If this onion had to pick a build to go with, it would be the second configuration. I still enjoy the first one, and ultimately, both are respectable in this onion's opinion, but I'll take the second one, despite the cons that didn't exist with configuration 1. Now I construct these builds with the philosophy of, you can't lose if you don't die. They are ultimately meant to be generally effective enough to have an answer in virtually every circumstance, provided one's skill, or lack thereof, is not the reason for their demise. However, every archetype and pairing will have their fair share of weaknesses based on their natural abilities and the biomes they explore. My designations of archetypes and bosses is experimental and is consequently open to revision. As we construct and explore more builds, Our categories may be subject to change or addition, but that concludes our discussion on the Deceiving Deadeye. It's been Londononion, and I will see you guys in the next build.